maybe you ask Nasrat Adamu.
Yeah.
He knows all the details because he was the chief engineer on Mosul Dam and he was the chief engineer on Badoush Dam as well.
How do you think about Mosul Dam?
Well, Mosul Dam, everybody knows the name by now after what has been published and said over the media. My role in that dam started in 1978 with the beginning of the investigation works and then the design and the planning of the dam. And at that time, I was working as a chief engineer in the minister's office, in direct contact with the minister, who entrusted me to organize an international board of experts to oversee over the design. So I worked with that board, which had some international engineering figures specialized in dams, such as Pierre Lond, who was a president of High Court, and Christian Groner, who was also a previous member of High Court, or the chief president of High Court, and an American famous engineer, Franklin Rogers, and others, of course. So I had the chance through the years of construction to follow every detail of that dam, and we had a lot of meetings, discussions with the consultants and with the contractors, trying to solve field problems and all that. And we compiled a lot of literature on that, about more than 30 reports, and that is very rich material on the stages of construction. Anyhow, I can say that problems we started to experience in the construction at the beginning of the impounding of the reservoir, that was about the beginning of 1986, where we experienced seepages in the dam body and flanks. And then we discovered there was a lot of dissolution in the foundation. The curtain wasn't being completed properly. There was much difficulties. A lot of techniques and materials and all that were used, but it was not useful. In the end, everybody decided that nothing can be done except to maintain this curtain year after year, to consider this as a permanent solution, to do grouting for the following years. And that was what was done actually, grouting over the past almost more than 30 years. Up to 2014, the quantity of grouting materials that was pumped was more than 100,000 tons of solid materials. But the minute you stop grouting, then the solution starts, and then everybody is not happy.
Please, you can tell about Mosul Dam and its risks.
Yeah, but Mosul Dam, the problem of Mosul Dam is not a new problem. It started since the operation of the dam in 1986. And the problem is, in fact, the consultants and designers, they underestimated the geology or the geological problems within the site. And for this reason, once they started to operate the dam, there was seepage of water under the foundation. And this is due to the existence of gypsum, anhydrite beds, and limestone, which is highly karstified. And this was not considered thoroughly to start with. And when they impounded the reservoir, the pressure of water, in fact, it speeded up the dissolution of gypsum and anhydrite, and we had the seepage. So they thought they might stop the seepage by doing grouting operations. And grouting operations started long time ago, since they were building the dam, and it's on till now. But what happened, in fact, in 2014, when ISIS, they occupied the dam, although it was a short period of time, but everybody ran away and grouting operations stopped, which was going on 24 hours. And for this reason, few months, there was no grouting. And the US Army Corps of Engineers, they did an inspection on the dam in 2014-2015. And they estimated that about 10,000 cubic meters of material were dissolved in that period only.
The risks of collapsing of Mosul Dam are huge, tremendous. The dam is like a volcano ready to to explode. Nobody can tell when such a thing could happen. Nobody have the three-dimensional vision inside, so deep in the foundation, to see the mechanism, exactly what's happening, how close, how big, how it's progressing. In fact, on a chart which they have showed, compared to other dams under their control, this US Bureau of Corps of Engineers, it was at the top of the chart. I mean, it is the most dangerous dam they had experience with. And of course, there was a lot of pressure from the United States government, from the Iraqi government, to find or to do a final solution.
And we know from the work of the US Army Corps of Engineers on the cores which were taken in the site that grouting will never stop the problem of seepage. In fact, grouting material, although they are replacing the dissolved material, but they are not that strong and they are weak. And according to the risk assessment of the US Army Corps of Engineers, the dam is in a very risky situation. And this will, the danger of failure will be at its maximum during flood time of the Tigris, which takes place usually during April or May each year. This year, the past year, the flood was low and people are very lucky. Nothing happened to the dam. But who knows what will happen in the future. So this is what worries us, really.
But definitely, and this was established by a report done by the United States Army Corps of Engineers Research Engineer Center. This report was published in 2006, and it states that the dissolution continues and the quality of the foundation rock is diminishing. The strength is it's weakened because of the grouting and regrouting. Once you grout, then you are actually replacing the old, the original dissolved material by a weaker material, which is the softer material, which is the grout. And year after year, it's become weaker and weaker, and the dissolution front is progressing even deeper and to the east. So that's what they say. So the whole situation, the future development are not so bright, and this risk is increasing.
I remember 2-3 months ago, one of the engineers working in Trevi, he said to one of the newspapers, I'm sorry I can't recall the name of the newspaper, he said, all what we are doing, it won't stop the problem. And everybody knows this. It won't stop the problem, because when you see the proper progress of seepage, when you block it in one place, then it appears in another place. It's gypsum beds. These beds are distributed all over the place. So when part of it is dissolved and you block it, then the other part will dissolve and it will cause another seepage, or another window, as they call it, seeping water. So this will go on, and as I said several times, that grouting will elongate the span life of the dam, but it will not stop the problem. And if we have high flood, like what happened in the past, for example, it will wash the dam completely.
Last study done by a research center in the European Commission in Brussels gives a tremendous insight in the volume of the catastrophe that could happen. It estimates from data that they have acquired through various agencies and satellites and all that, that the dam could endanger more than 6 million people if it fails. And the area which will be covered by water will go up to 7,600 something square kilometers.
This, in fact, these models, they gave several scenarios, and of course we take the worst scenario when the dam is filled. That means the storage is about 11 billion cubic meters. If this is the case, then you will have a wave of about 25 meters high if the dam breaks. And this wave will arrive to the first city, which is Mosul, within 4 hours. And that means 75% of Mosul will be, in fact, underwater. And then with approximately about 48 hours, it will reach Baghdad, the capital. And at that moment, north of Baghdad, the wave height will be 4 meters. And Baghdad is a very plain area. And that means most of Baghdad will be underwater. And it will take 10 hours for the wave to cross Baghdad. And south of Baghdad, the wave height will be about 2 meters, and further down, about 60 kilometers, the wave will die.
Of course, everybody knew that before that such wave will be destructive. It will erode Mosul city, especially the left side, completely, and most of the right side, the south. The wave will pass by Baghdad and even more down. The city of Baghdad will be covered by mud, sludge, and for about 2 meters for the whole city. And that stagnant water will stay maybe 2, 3, 4 months, because the area is very flat and the drainage is very slow. It will be very good ground for mosquitoes, for cholera, for things like that. Because imagine all the sewers will be mixed, all the dustbins, all the garbage dumps will be filling the place, maybe a lot of corpses of dead people or dead animals, stinking and all that.
And the American embassy in Baghdad, they calculated the possible number of people which will be affected, and they assume that there will be at least 1 million people will die due to this flood. And then the European Commission, they did some work on this as well. And they estimated that at least 6 million people will be homeless. And about 7,200 square kilometers of land will be underwater. And if you look at the map of Iraq, from Mosul Dam to Baghdad, there will be at least 32 cities affected. And this is, we are talking about casualties, human casualties, but we can't estimate the infrastructure which will be destroyed. You will have no roads, no water distribution network, no electricity, nothing. All these will disappear, no train track, nothing. And this is enormous loss, really. Let's say if we are talking about the worst scenario, when it's at its maximum, I think Iraq will be destroyed. There will be no Iraq after that, as we can see it as now. Because you will have the main cities, as I said, 32 cities on the banks, left and right bank of the river Tigris, from Mosul till Baghdad, will be destroyed completely. And as I said, 6 million people will be homeless. And where they are going to live, how they are going to maintain life.
The first alternative is to have a diaphragm, a Mosul dam, which should go deep enough and long enough on both sides to prevent this dissolution problem. Of course, we would need first to do a lot of investigations, deep investigations, and even, well, you see, I have my doubts about the solution. I mean, we have to have better technical insight. First, there has never been machines produced so far which has gone so deep in the foundation. We need about 240 meters. Then we have to have this machine working on top of the dam. I can't see how safe it is, especially with the dam not fully drawn down. There are dangers of stability. We are working in the heart of the dam, drilling, and then the foundation, karstic foundation, full of cavities. There are danger of losing the excavation fluid, and once that happens, then the trench will collapse, and God knows what will happen afterwards. Losing the machinery and the stability of the dam will be affected. So maybe we have to do grouting, pre-grouting before the diaphragm building. So what have we done now? Now we couldn't do the grouting successfully in the first place. Now we have to do pre-grouting, and then we have to do excavation in such a tricky condition. So I have my doubts on this.
So in fact it was decided in 1988 to build another dam, downstream Mosul Dam, which is called Badoush Dam. And they started building the dam at that time. And they finished 40% of that dam. That dam was designed at that time so that if Mosul Dam breaks, then this dam can take the wave of the Mosul Dam failure. And this is the only solution, or the most logical solution I can see, to avoid this catastrophe of the Mosul Dam failure, really.
The other solution would be to build actually to finish the Badoush Dam, which we started about how many years? We started in 1988. I was the project manager at that time, and we constructed about 40%, 30% of the work. Then it stopped because of the war, the first Gulf War, and it was never restarted again due to the different situations, security and money-wise and all that. We can complete that dam, but also after all the discoveries now during these few years, I feel also that the design must be modified and to go and also build a diaphragm with that dam. and should be very deep, because now the last findings we found after thorough studies that the geology would be the same, but at deeper elevations, which we didn't discover the previous time. So a diaphragm will be needed, a modification of the design will be needed, and then it should go ahead.
Of course, the thing is, you can do whatever you like to do in Iran, but it needs people that they are sincere in their work. Iraq, when I look at Iraq, in fact, it's one of the richest countries in its natural resources, and see the economic situation now. It's down the drain. And all of this, it's due to corruption, really.
Yeah.
So if you don't have corruption, Iraq can be a very good and nice country, and you won't have any people workless or jobless. If you look at the politics of Iraq, the ministers are each, the parties, political parties, they have their share in the government. And each one has his ministers in that government. And they don't look at what's good for Iraq. They only look how much they gain from this project or from doing this plan or this thing. So if they don't have a share in it, they won't approve anything, really. And I know this because this problem, as I told you, it's not new. And the Americans, they raised the concern in 2006. And I know plenty of Iraqi officials high in their positions, and I asked them, and they told me on personal basis that, you know, there is always a conflict between the parties, how much they could gain out of Mosul Dam problem. And this is the conflict behind the scenes, which doesn't allow, you know, a good, prudent solution to the problem of Mosul Dam. Nasrat, when he talks about this minister, he is comparing this minister with the previous ministers. And relatively speaking, this one, at least this minister, he agreed, or he told people, the public, that we have a problem in Mosul Dam, because the other ministers, they denied any problem in Mosul Dam, which is very bad, really. At least this person, he said that there is a problem, we have a problem in Mosul Dam, and in fact, as far as we can see it, Nasrat and I, they are trying to find a solution. But this problem, it's not one man show. Mm-hmm. The minister, this minister, or even any other minister, cannot do this alone. It should be a cabinet, the whole government cabinet and the prime minister, they have to decide this. Maybe he is good, maybe he is very good, I don't know, really. But even if he wants to do something, if the others, they don't approve it, he can't do it. Nasrat and I, we think sincerely that there should be an international, let's say, coalition that can raise money, and they do the job, not the Iraqi government.
I know that the United Nations is very much worried about the situation, especially their office in Baghdad. And they have done also some studies, and I think they have had discussions. I'm not sure, but I think they have had some discussions with the government. But my sincere hope is that the government, the Ministry of Water Resources, should work towards the finalization of this problem by finding a permanent solution, by asking the world for help. My vision is that an international fund should be established. That is something like to save Iraq from Mosul Dam's possible failure. This should be financed by all the governments who have interest in this, who, would like to help. And this should be also, work should be done under an umbrella of some world organization which would help the government and the ministry. And well, this is a summary of what I have to say here, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to say it. I assure you that myself and my colleagues in this team in Lulu University are willing to do more work on this, and as long as we can, because that helps. After all, it is our country, and even the others who are not Iraqis in the team have this feeling and insight what to do. And as a team, we would like to cooperate on any solution of that sort. Thank you.
Thank you very much. But Iraq would need now their own money to change its...
they should change everything. They're planning, and for example, climate change. If you take this, climate change, I have done plenty of work on this. And all the scenarios we have seen that rainfall is going to decrease with time. And for this, you should do plenty of planning. So that you secure the amount of water required for the people. And if you look at some of the reports, or look at what the Turkish government, the Iranian government, and the Syrian, although there are problems in Syria now, but if you look at their water projects, in fact, if they do all their water projects, there won't be any water in the Tigris and Euphrates in 2050. This is according to UN and World Bank and European Community reports, which was published, I think, in 2010. So all this, it needs a planning and restructuring of the future of the country. And as you said, oil, they should use the money they get from the oil now to develop, for example, the use of solar energy to produce electricity. There is plenty of sun in the country. They should use solar energy and pumping groundwater, let's say. They should use solar energy and desalinization of saline aquifers. So the planning should be like this. They should use the money they are getting now to plan for the future of the country and people. But who is doing this? Nobody. Nobody.